Oh, horror. Oh, wait. Wait, what the fuck? A horror and a hysteria? And what's up, boys? Today I am back again with another strat, but this one is a mapping strat. I know towers are kind of bad and whatever, but I like this strategy a lot. I think it's really, really good for like mid-tier juicing. If you have 50 div of gear, 10 div to juice your maps. One of the better strategies out there right now, but it's highly dependent on a few things. Let me just go over the pros of the strategy first before I go over the cons, and then I'm just gonna give everything to you up front in case like the strategy is too expensive or the strategy has too much RNG. I don't really want to watch the rest of the video, whatever. You have that information up front. The pros of the strategy are it's insanely profitable. Currently, horrors, 4.8 div each. Hysterias, I think, are 1.5 div each. 1.6. So just off of horrors and hysterias, I personally made close to 35 div. It's insane profit. Number two, we are also farming a ton of rare monsters. This means that although hysteria is the majority of our loot, we still get a bunch of other good loot too. We dropped like almost 100 chaos orbs, 12 divine. We're getting a lot of regular loot. I was getting like 1 divine every like 3 maps. That's not even including like perfect exalts. We dropped 2 of them. So on average, I would say we were dropping like half a divine and just like currency drops per map. So it's not like ritual where if you don't get the omens, then like you're not making profit. The idea here is that like you make profit off this big ticket stuff like the horrors and the hysterias, but you're also expected to get some good currency drops as well. I dropped the Kadiros. So like that's just kind of like what it looks like in terms of the loot. I'll do a full breakdown of the profit cost, that kind of stuff later. The downsides for the strategy are pretty much 2 things. Number 1, the cost of tablets are incredibly expensive because the way you juice these maps are through these +1 essence per map tablets, these boss tablets. These just make it so that you get 10, 12 essences per map. These are so expensive. These are like around a div each. If you're smart about it, you can snipe them as well and get them for like a little bit less than a div. I was probably paying like probably half a div to like 0.7 of a div because I set up active trade filters. I was sniping them for cheap. If you're just gonna buy them outright, it's gonna be around a div each. You're gonna need around 8 of these per setup, and then 1 Vision of Paradise, which is around 4 div each. So the whole map setup, the whole tablet setup is gonna cost you around 12 div, which is, it's pretty expensive, right? But the one thing that you have to consider about this is, you know, 12 div is quite a bit of money. When we go back to the profits, 12 div is also not that much money because you drop 2 Essence of Horror and all of your tablets are paid for, not including everything else. The other downside is these 6 Essences of Horror that I dropped them within the first 2 hours. And I thought, holy shit, this strategy is gonna absolutely pump. And then the next 4 hours, I didn't drop a single one. So there is high variance to this strategy. The first problem with the strategy is it's really high cost entry. It's like 12 div in tablets to set up. The second problem is that there's high variance, but that's also offset significantly by the fact that you're dropping a lot of really good currency. So what did the actual profits look like in total? As you can see here, we dropped 12 div in raw div. We dropped 3.5 div in chaos orbs. I think it was 89 total. And then we dropped 2 perfect exalt orbs. These are worth 5.4 div. We're gonna round both of these down to like 3 div and 5 div respectively. We had 2 div and just greater exalts plus greater chaos orbs. And we had 5 div in these shitter essences. So these Essence of Abyss, perfect battles, these are worth around 25 exalts each. And then these hastes plus opulence are worth around 20 exalts each. I think in total it's like 1300 exalts, which is roughly 5 div. On top of that, we had way more than 2 div and shitter drops. We want to be conservative again. We had 9 heavy belt drops, and these are probably worth around a div total. On top of that, we have a bunch of these white bases that we could craft on. We dropped the tier 0 unique. And then we also have a bunch of tablets that we could probably sell for in total like a couple divs if we were to trans-og all of them and price them all. Let's just be conservative and just call this all 2 div and shitter drops. Now that means that everything, all these currency drops, all these shitter essences, and the random loot that we got from the rare monsters was around 29 div. So we actually dropped 6 horrors. We had to sell 2 of them because we ran out of liquidity. But if we were just to be conservative here and just say we only dropped 5, then that means 5 horrors, 24 div at 4.8 div each. 4 hysterias are 6 div at 1.6 div each. This means that we had a total of 30 div in these juicer essence drops, which brings us to a 59 div total. Tablets, let's just say that they're 12 div. We buy them at the high price of 1 div each, and then 4 div for the vision. That brings us to a total profit of around 47 div. And it took us around 6 hours to run these 20 VAPs that we visioned, 10 to 15 at most that were triple juiced. And then like the other remaining were just like double juice maps that we ran because we were trying to pull out as much juice as possible. At 47 div, this took us 6 hours to run all of these. it was around 7.8 div an hour. And this is with our conservative estimates. You know, we dropped the horror here, we rounded down for everything. In reality, we ourselves probably made around 10 div an hour, 9 to 10 div an hour. But conservatively, 7.5, 8 div an hour for you guys, I think is a very, very good estimate. Had around 100 div of gear, Headhunter, Rockiatas, this Insano amulet that we crafted. So if you have better gear than us, you can expect to have higher div per hour. And if you have worse gear than us, then you can expect to have a little bit lower div per hour. One really important contingency for this strategy. Half of your currency is made off of these two essences. Horrors right now, 4.8 div each. Hysterias, 1.6 div each. If this goes down to 1 div each and this goes down to 3.5 div each, then the amount of profit you make goes down pretty significantly, probably like a div or 2 per hour. So that's just something that you have to keep in mind when you're deciding to run the strategy yourself. If you look 2 days from now and the prices of horror plummet, don't do the strategy. If you look 2 days from now and the prices of horrors are like 7 div per, then it's like, holy shit, the strategy is even better. The next thing I want to get into is the actual setup for the strategy. We want to run tablets that have additional essences. As you saw from like our profit analysis, a lot of our currency is being made off of just like normal drops too. Roughly, I would say a third was from normal drops, non-essences. The most important thing for the tablets are the additional essence. But if you can get a prefix that has like increased rarity, increased quant, more rare monsters, like that kind of stuff, you are golden. You need to have the essences, but if you can get a prefix on top of it, amazing. The priority for the prefixes are quant is most important, rarity is second probably most important, rare monsters is third most important. If you have a triple tower, that means you have 9 open tablet slots. You are going to want to send 8 of these tablets in and then 1 vision. The vision just lets you rerun the map. So this adds irradiation, which does +1 level to the area. When you complete the map, it just removes the irradiation instead of completing the map. Since the rest of our tablets are so expensive, this essentially gives us double value out of our other tablets. So for 4 div or 4.5 div, we essentially get 8 div worth of value. It's just so nice to do. So that's the tablet setup. Let's talk about the maps themselves. And the general rule of thumb I have for mapping in general is you want to go 60-60. So 60% rare monsters, 60 rarity. Now this 60-60, it adds up to 120. So theoretically, if you had like 80 rare monsters and like 45 rarity, that's also acceptable. These rules aren't very strict. You can kind of play with them a little bit, but the general idea is you want to have high rarity right here and then high rare monster amount as well. Now, one thing that I added on to this strategy was I was specifically looking for maps that had rare monsters have an additional modifier. So I would buy these rare monsters have an additional modifier maps and then craft onto them. And then if I had one that was like high rare monsters, high rarity, I would run them. But the reason why this is so broken is specifically because we are going to be running merging of worlds. This means that the more modifiers you have on your rare monsters, the more modifiers you'll have on your essence monsters, because every essence monster is a rare monster, the more essences you're going to see. If you see 12 essence monsters per map, having this modifier on your Waystone gives you 3 more essences per map on average. It gives you rare monsters on the Waystone. So not only does it give you exactly what you want for your juice, but it also gives you 3 additional essences per map. So for this strat specifically, I would come and look for a map like this. This is only 3 exalts. It has rare additional modifier. You buy this, slam 2 exalts on it, and then you slam a preserved vertebrae. Now we just take it to the desecration. So this is really important. I'll link this in the description here, okay? It shows you what all the Waystone modifiers are and what benefit they give. So in case you didn't know, every single Waystone modifier now has a fixed result. This mod here, it gives you one of the best buffs to your Waystone in the game, which is I think 40% rarity, 45% rarity on your map. However, it gives you one of the worst downsides of the map, which is destroying your mobility, okay? This is almost never worth taking. However, this map mod here, I know for a fact, gives you 50% increased rare monsters on your map, which is one of the best map mods in the game as well, and the downside isn't that bad. Union of Souls with Map Boss, 50% increased number of rare monsters. So this is absolutely insane. This is how you kind of want to desecrate your maps, is you want to have an understanding of what mods you want. And for this strategy, you're going to want 2 map mods. Priority 1 is rarity of monsters, priority 2 is increased rarity of items, and then priority 3 would just be like pack size. That's not ideal. So we're going to take this, and as you're going to see, we go from 25% to 75%. Unfortunately, we have a shit ton of rare monsters and pack size, but we have no rarity. So I would say perhaps this map is not worth running. This costs 6 exalts to get to this point. So you buy up like 20 of these maps, you slam the exalts on them, you slam the desecrations on them, and if you get a map that has like, before you even distill 50-40, you're good. Because what you then do with a map like this is you can distill on 2 things. If you have insano high rare monsters like this one does, then you're going to want to distill on greed. This gives rarity, I think 24% total, which then brings us to 75% rare monsters, 25% rarity. This is kind of a little bit lower than I'd recommend running, but that's the idea. However, for the most part, you're going to want to run rare monsters, which is Paranoia, this yellow distill, because Greed gives you 24% item rarity. Paranoia gives you like 45% rare monsters. So it just gives you way more value on rare monsters. I would say at least 40% item rarity on the map is good. And then you slam on 3 Paranoias and you instantly get 45% more rare monsters. But that's how you roll your maps. You want to have like at least 100% combined rare monsters plus item rarity together. So you have your map, you have your tablet set up. How are we running our atlas? The only important part for the essence nodes that you need are these 8 points here. The way it works is this increased chance for essences, it only affects the baseline value. So if you have 10 essences on your map, getting like 100 or like 300% increase contained essences won't make it so you have like 30 essences on your map. This only affects the baseline value of essences, which is like 5 or 10% on your map. So these nodes aren't really that important to take. And for that reason, this ecological shift is actually a bad node. So this, again, is not that important. This is just a travel node, but this is very important. This increases the odds that we get perfect essences. And in case you didn't know, the only way to get corrupted essences, like the essence of horror, the essence of hysteria, is from corrupting perfect essences on an essence monster. So this is huge. The more perfect essences we see and then corrupt, the more horrors and hysterias we're going to see. Next is this. This is just the same as before. 37% chance when corrupting essence monsters in your map to corrupt an additional time. You corrupt once, it doesn't hit the horror, has a 37% chance to corrupt again. Also on top of that, greater essences can be corrupted into perfect essences. And then if you corrupt a second time, you can corrupt those perfect essences into horrors. Now it's very valuable to corrupt every essence on your map, even if it's a greater. This though is the most important one. 25% chance for modifiers on essence monsters in your map to be replaced with essences. This means that if you can get like a 6 mod rare essence, there's a 25% chance that all 6 of those mods will then convert into essences. So you'll end up finding essence monsters that have like 6, 7, 8 essence mods on them, especially if you're doing the +1 additional mod tech that I have on the maps. So these are the only points that you need to take for essences. This shit doesn't matter. You don't care about what essence types you have. You don't care about increased essences because you're corrupting everything, which re-rolls the odds. So this is what you need. Okay, now I'm going to tell you what the other strategies you could run are and then what the strategy I ran are. There's a world where you go into Azmiri Spirits as well, and you do like some hybrid bossing Azmiri Spirit strat where you're fishing for rite of passages. That is viable, heavily RNG, very unlikely to find a rite of passage, but this is also a viable strategy. You can also spec into nodes here for increased odds of rogue exiles. Unidentified Heart of the Wells are selling for 14 div right now, so you can fish for those as well. However, the strategy I think is the best, the most fun, and the most consistent is just doing a normal juice strat. Like I said to you before, a third to like 40% of our currency was dropped through like divs, random currency drops, whatever, not just essences. How did we get that? And why do we get that? Every single map, we're adding at least 10 rares to our map. So my thought process was, rares are the best loot pinatas in the game. Why don't we just juice our maps normally, get high rarity, high rare monsters, and then just treat this as like a bonus? If we get an essence, that's great, but if not, we're still adding 10 rares per map. So what we're doing here is we're increasing our rare chances, we're increasing our rare, we're increasing our explicit modifiers, increasing our tablet modifiers, increasing waystone modifiers, all the stuff that you normally do for normal juicing setups. And then we're adding 8 points on the essences on top of that. All these other points are pretty much just saying, hey, we're getting a bunch of rare monsters. Let's just get the most value out of them, the most currency that we can get, the most drops that we can get out of those rare monsters. And this is saying we're putting 8 nodes into essences. Let's see how many horrors and hysterias we can fish for. And that pretty much is the whole Atlas tree. Oh, we got DC'd. And together, that's the whole strategy. I made around 10 div an hour doing the strategy. And I was doing it pretty unoptimally because I was like messing around with the tree and figure out ways to optimize it. But I would say conservatively 8 div an hour is very reasonable for the strategy, contingent on the fact that horror and hysteria prices are as high as they are now, which they will probably go down. But even if they go down to like 3.5 div for horrors and like 1 div for hysterias, you're still going to be making like 6, 7 div an hour conservatively. With that being said, that's the whole video. That's the whole strategy. I am cooking up all these strategies live on Twitch every single day, and I stream on YouTube too. I'm doing a zero to mirror challenge right now where I only play the game. So if you want to find what these strategies are before I release the tech on YouTube and everyone's already kind of getting onto them, feel free to check me out there. But anyways, that's it for the video. I think it's a really solid strategy. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Yeah.